forward, so until we get to the numbers, don't get too stressed about it. The idea of process costing is, again, we're producing this something in mass. We're not keeping up with individual jobs. It's just something we do day in, day out, over and over again. All right. So you saw with the beer production, it was just a continuous process. They just produced can after can after can. There was no keeping up with individual costs of a can or even individual cost of a case. It's just something they consistently do. Now, there are smaller breweries, so they will be taking breaks throughout, and they would actually probably close up for the night and that sort of thing. But if you think about a larger brewery, they're going to be consistently making the beer all day long, all year long, and they're not going to stop just because, well, it's time to do the accounting. It's time to figure out. We have to have everything through all the system because we have to figure out the cost, because we have to figure out the cost of goods sold to get on the income statement and so forth. No, what's going to happen is there's going to be some of that beer sitting in those fermentation tanks that still have another 10 days to go in fermentation, yet they're not, so they're not finished with that process yet it's time to do the accounting books. So how much cost did we put in during this month versus next month? How do we figure that all out? So that's what we're going to get into in process costing, figuring out how much of that cost transfers out of work in process to the next stage based on how much product transferred out of work in process to the next stage. So we're going to explain the concept and purpose of equivalent units. We're going to assign cost of the products using a 5-step process. We're going to do it using weighted average and FIFO. So we've got 2 methods of doing this that we're going to look at. And then we're going to talk about the difference between FIFO and weighted average so we understand why, what's the benefits of one over the other, and talk about that a little bit. So to compare job order costing with process costing. When we're doing job costing, we trace direct material, direct labor, factory overhead. We got those individual jobs. We figured out what was going on. These individual jobs, that's what made up work in process. And then as we finish them, we can keep up with that. Well, in process costing, we're going to keep up with individual processes. What's going on in brewing? What's going on in fermentation? What's going on in packaging? What's going to happen is that beer, as it goes through, costs are going to be added to it at each stage. Here's where they added the wheat and everything, and the other grain. Well, here's where they added the yeast, with yeast costs. And then here's finally where they added the actual cans themselves and the packaging material. Well, that's an additional cost that's being added. So as the product flows through the various processes, the cost per unit is going up. So we'll also talk about that. And then finally goes to finished goods and cost of goods sold.